People are past the point of being interested in the debate of whether climate change is real or not. They just say, I want somebody to do something about this.
And you can debate all day long whether it's man-made or not. That is actually not the point.
It's amazing how few people want to talk about climate change. They want to totally dismiss it.
The climate in the long term can have an impact on human health.
What do we save? Who do we save? Do we save these wonderful national monuments? Do we save the culture? Do we save the people?
If we look just at the environment without looking at the economic and social structure, we're missing two parts of a very important equation.
Businesses are just as exposed to climate change as individuals, as communities, as the environment.
But we really need to focus on our vulnerable populations, our elderly, our disabled, our economically challenged. We know they're our most at-risk population. We just know that.
Can big problems be solved in the present political environment? And the answer, unfortunately, is I don't know.
But the bottom line is that what is undeniable here, what is undeniable is that sea level has risen and it is rising faster than it was.
From the rocky coasts of Maine to the warm beaches of Florida, the Atlantic coast and the ocean beyond provide Americans with many of the things that make life worth living. The Atlantic connects, divides, and defines. It's a muse for poets and a subject for artists. And let's face it, on a warm summer day, there's hardly a better place to be than a sandy shore. Science and observation tell us that sea levels are rising, though there's hardly anywhere where it's more apparent than right here at Hunting Island State Park in South Carolina. Here at the water's edge, it's easy to see the damage that's done by rising sea levels and storm surge. And when this happens, this historically popular state park has to close to visitors. It's got eroding beaches and incredibly damaged dunes. And now, all but 2 of the cabins that formerly dotted this island are completely gone. And it's not an isolated example. Along the 200-mile stretch of coastline that runs from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, down to Savannah, Georgia, which, by the way, is home to a rapidly growing population, military bases, port cities, tourist destinations, and a thriving seafood economy, a rising tide of uncertainty is accompanying rising sea levels. It's all about change, sea change.
You see this beautiful harbor behind us. In the last 100 years, it's already known that it's risen 18 inches. Over the next 30 to 40 years, it's projected it could easily rise another 1.5 to 2.5 feet, 18 to 30 inches. So if you look at the existing, quote, nuisance flooding that we have, if you add another 2 feet on top of that, it's projected that downtown Charleston and major parts of West Ashley and really coastal South Carolina could not only have nuisance flooding, but flooding that directly impacts our daily lives.
The Greater Grand Strand is very vulnerable to what's going to happen with climate change. It's the rising ocean, it's the marine life, it's our tourism, it's the cultural effects, like, for example, the sweetgrass baskets. They are a part of our culture, and they're going to disappear when the sweetgrass disappears.
You know, I see some of the sweetgrass seem as though it's dying at the roots of it. And I think it's probably from the water level that it sits so long and start rotting in the root of it. I think the sea level has something to do with that.
Of course, climate change is going to have a tremendous effect on our cultural resources, particularly in our coastal parks, but it could be any park, really, because when we look at the climate change science, we know it's not just coastal effects, drought, erosion, storm events. These are things that are not limited to the coast. So all of our park projects are being affected by climate change, and I think that's the reason why the National Park Service has implemented a climate change response strategy.